the next time we meet won't be until Thursday. And so you have until Thursday to get that homework done. And so the afternoons are a really good time for you to develop some personal time management skills. We thought it would be really important to talk to you guys about what might be happening in live sessions. So when you show up to Google Meets in the mornings, what's happening there, and then what kind of stuff you might be assigned for homework. So in the live sessions, Mr. Alper and I generally are going to spend our time first reviewing content, and that's content that you would have learned for homework. And so maybe for homework, to prepare for a session, you read a chapter from a textbook or watched a couple of videos, or maybe I like pre-recorded a lecture of myself and you had to watch that. When you show up to the live session, having completed that work, we'll quickly review. And that might be like a class Kahoot to just quickly gauge how much you guys understood the homework. It might be a Google form. And so those are those like multiple choice questions that we can quickly see a grade out of 5 or 10 questions and see how our classes are doing. Or the review might be like a really quick live discussion. After we review, I don't know why it says discussion and short quizzes again. Those count as review. I would say most of our time in live sessions are going to be practicing skills. And so using the content that you just read, we're going to use that to do something with it. And in history, that's a lot of writing. And so developing argumentative thesis statements or finding evidence to support a claim. Sometimes that work might happen in breakout groups. So Mr. Alper and I both are going to have groups that you're assigned to for the whole quarter. And during those live sessions, you might break out into small groups of 5 or 6 students, and you'll have a task to complete as a group. So you might say you have 20 minutes in your breakout groups. When we come back, each group needs to have a thesis and 3 pieces of evidence, or each group needs to complete this like graphic organizer based on the reading from last night. So after we review content, we practice a skill using that content. The last thing we'll do is just explain any homework you have coming up. So for example, if this meeting is happening on Monday, we'll give you guys the homework for Thursday and explain it. And then you have the next 3 days to complete that work. Some examples of what you might have for homework. And again, the district schedule calls this asynchronous learning. I mentioned this already, but it might be a textbook reading. It might be a video to watch. I don't know how many of your teachers in this spring used Edpuzzle for videos, but like watching a little video with questions embedded. Or if we're nearing the end of a unit, you might be working on a writing assignment, like a summative assessment where you're writing a 1 to 2 page essay about all the content you had been learning so far in that unit. Anytime you guys are assigned homework in IB history, like if we meet on Monday and I tell you, here's the textbook chapter and here's the pre-recorded lecture, or here's a 10-minute video to watch, the expectation is that all of that is completed before you show up for the live class. That's going to be really important. We're trying to learn a semester's worth of content in 1 quarter. And so if you guys aren't doing the work outside of class in that asynchronous time, it's going to be really hard to get through everything we need to get through. So we're trusting that you guys are completing that stuff outside of class. Content that we're covering. So in blue across the top, that content is specific to year 1. And then in red across the bottom, that content is specific to year 2. We trimmed some of the content down. If you guys went to Miss Clark's session about IB, I'm sure that you've heard that some of the tests are changing to allow some more flexibility. And so we don't have to do.
Okay, now it's the right teacher. Look at that.
And we don't have to do as much content as before. And so you guys can read through this. If you're in year 2, just know that we're trimming some stuff. the tests are a little bit shorter, and we'll get you prepared as best as we can. But if you're taking IB history in the first quarter, that's your whole semester, first semester of IB history. Same with if you're in IB year 2 and you don't have it till the second quarter, that's still your first semester of IB history. So that left-hand column, that's all first semester, and that right-hand column is what you'll be in second semester. Some suggestions for us. The one highlighted in red is the most important. It's really easy to forget things if you don't write them down. And so when we have textbook readings or videos to watch for homework, we don't plan to assign a ton of questions for you to answer with those readings. And that's a huge difference from the spring. That just doesn't seem like a valuable use of your time. But what would be a valuable use of your time is if you're reading from a textbook or watching a video, that you have some sort of personal system for taking notes. And if you attend a live session where Mr. Alper and I are reviewing, like, here's the really important content that you should have gotten from that reading, I would 100% recommend a piece of paper in front of you and you're writing that stuff down. So you might have a binder this year with a tab for each subject, and you just have loose leaf paper in the IB history section that you can take notes on live sessions and on readings as you go. Or you might have just a composition book, and every time you're doing history homework or you're at a history live session, you're adding notes there. But I think like the most important thing is have some sort of system for taking notes as we go through content. Other suggestions are like, try to let your family know if you're in a live session, right? I have to like close the door and tell Hank not to come in.
Ms. Mullins?
Yes.
I'm going to interrupt really quickly because
Sure.
I think there's a few people that are in the same boat with some sound issues.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if we can solve that before we keep going. So
Sure.
Sophia, for example, you can't hear us, or can you hear us now? I can see you. Can you give a thumbs up if you can hear us? That's not a good sign. She is not giving me a thumbs up.
Not to you, and they also couldn't hear me.
They could, no. There's some people that entered, and so they're trying to leave the meeting and come back in because there's some sort of interesting glitch. And Walter has a suggestion about if you don't close the previous tab, it might not work. Also, if you don't allow the website to use the mic, it won't work. I think people that got here on time or close to the beginning, it's working fine. It looks like new people are entering. So we will do our best to navigate that. I'm sorry, you guys, if you can't hear me right now to hear this apology. We will be posting these on YouTube later as the afternoon and evening comes. So we'll try that. Sorry for the interruption. Let's keep going.
That's okay. Yeah, do you want me to change anything?
No, I don't think it's on our end.
Okay.
I think it's a consistent thing, and looks like most of us can hear you.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, we're close to the end, and I can like start taking questions, and we can add some stuff to the chat box. Take notes. Communicate with your family. Don't be on your phone. Do your homework. Move around. Try to sleep a lot. Okay, questions. I'm going to stop presenting so I can see you guys and like answer questions to your face or look at the chat box, if that's okay with y'all. Mr. Richardson, did you see some questions that you want me to answer, or do you want me to like scroll through and find them?
No, I am happy to moderate a little bit. There's a couple questions that may be good for the group. I was answering along the way, but if not everybody was following the chat and following you, which is probably a good idea. One of the questions that came up is, how do you plan to do breakout rooms in a setting like this?
Great question. Right now, there's not a great feature in Google Meets. So I have a Google Doc. I'll just show you because it's really easy to show. I'm going to present my screen again really quickly. So Mr. Alpers will be the same. Are you guys looking at my Google Classroom right now?
We are.
Cool. So here's my section, IB History Period 4. If you go to the classwork tab, most teachers plan to have this resources section at the top of the classwork tab. And you can see the first thing I've posted there is a link to the Google Meet breakout sessions. And so I'll just show you the document I created. So I have 5 Google Meets created for each class that I teach. And before the first day of class, I'll populate like 5 or 6 kids' names into each of these columns. And so when I say like, we're going to get in breakout groups for 20 minutes and here's the task you need to complete, you'll know what group you're in. If you're in group 1, you're just going to be in group 1 for the entire quarter. And you can always come to this Google Doc and click the link to the group 1 meeting. Like these links won't change and your groups won't change. I also have a link to the whole class Google Meet here. And then teachers have office hours on Wednesdays that are open for anyone to come. So I mentioned that 30 minutes after the live session is office hours. There's also open office hours every Wednesday. And so I included those in this Google Doc so that every link that you need for every live meeting in IB history is on this document. And so I'm going to stop presenting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We've got a
and
question.
hopefully-
Are you covering any LGBTQ rights and or movements in year 1?
Good question. Unfortunately, no, it's not one of the rights and protest movements that's prescribed by the IB curriculum. If we had more time, that would be an awesome thing to add. But I don't see having extra time this year, and it's not a prescribed subject. I know, bummer, Walter.
And I'll just add, as you know, IB is it's a global organization, right? And so we get some choice, but we also have to stick with the IB curriculum within those. We have certain guardrails that IB puts up in terms of units and topics that we cover.
Yeah.
We've got a question from. Oh, go ahead, Alyssa.
Were you going to ask Connor's question?
No, actually, I'm up by Chris's question about your favorite part of the curriculum for this class.
Oh,
what's your favorite
question.
part of the curriculum?
The rights and protest movements. They're super fun. I think they're like really relevant to current events right now, obviously. So I'm like really pumped to teach African American civil rights this year. And I think for students who took it last year, I hope they found a ton of relevance from what they learned to what was happening in the world. So hi, Danielle Murley. Danny Murley, hi. So anyways,
hi.
Yeah, I love, turn your mic off. Yeah, I like the rights and protests unit a lot. Someone asked, will Mr. Alper be using this system too? Did the person who asked that mean, is he using the same system for breakout rooms?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Gosh, good example of turning on your mic at the appropriate time. Yes, he will. I shared that exact document that I created with him, and I'm pretty sure he used my exact format and changed the links. So if you're in Alper's class, you should see a similar document, and he'll make the breakout rooms. Chris is asking, do I get to choose my breakout groups or no? If you're in year 2, I've heard rumors that Mr. Alper might let students choose their breakout groups. For year 1, probably not, since we don't know you guys, but I don't want to say no for sure. Juliana, can you explain breakout groups? Yeah, during live sessions, we might meet as a whole group like this, so a whole class of 30, or students might go do some work in a breakout room. And that's a small group of 5 to 6 students, and you go and complete a task in that room. Maybe you're writing a thesis statement, maybe you're filling in a graphic organizer, maybe you're just like checking in with each other. And so you'll go into those rooms. I'll have all of the tabs open on my computer, so I'll like be checking in on people, but you might do something in that room and then come back as a whole group. Mr. Richardson, sorry, I was reading questions at the bottom, but you're further up top, so tell me if you have any.
It is going well. And I think you're staying caught up, and I've got a visitor real quick. I apologize.
Okay. Okay. Hey, kids and parents in this meeting, if you asked a question and it's way further up the chat, I'm not there, but if you want to type it in to the bottom again, I'll see that. Aries asked, what will finals look like if we do have them? I have no idea. I would say a lot of your unit assessments, end of unit assessments in IB are essays because that's what the IB test is. And so I would expect at the end of each small unit in your first quarter that you'll be writing an essay, like 1 or 2 pages, nothing crazy. Was there anything else you discussed besides taking notes? Oh yeah, Sonnet, we talked about the content that we were covering in year 1 and year 2. We talked about like what we'd be doing in synchronous and asynchronous sessions. We'll post the PowerPoint, I think, Mr. Richardson. We'll post the PowerPoint and a recording of this video. Also, Sonnet, I'll just email you the PowerPoint after this too.
Yep, we'll be posting shortly. I think that the grid on our schedule wasn't very clear, and I apologize. Some of the lines didn't show up in the actual email.
Yeah.
There was a question about attendance, which is kind of a general one, and I'll field that. You are expected to be in attendance for the synchronous sessions. So those morning sessions, you're expected to be there, be live, and participate appropriately. The afternoon/evening is where you get some freedoms to figure out what works with your schedule and how to interact with we're calling it asynchronous learning. Your teachers are going to be providing you lessons, videos, readings, activities that you can do on your own. And while we have a schedule that's outlined for you, Ms. Mullins talked about that earlier, you might decide that 9 o'clock is the best time for you. I would recommend earlier so you can get some sleep, but I understand. So the point is you have some flexibility with your asynchronous time, but we do want kids to come for these synchronous sessions. We will be recording them if by chance you are unable to attend the live session, though. We do understand there's lots of life going on for people.
And I'll add to Ryan's comment, and then we have a bunch of questions coming in. So if you, and Gage asked about exceptions to attendance, because each live session is recorded, when I record my live sessions, I'll post them in Google Classroom under the classwork tab. And so Gage, if you can't be in class one day, like we understand that stuff comes up, and I would recommend emailing your teacher just like you always do. It's really nice to let us know that you won't be there and why. And then I would say the best thing you can do as a student is go watch that live session. So go watch the hour-long live session, see what instruction you missed. And that instruction is going to be about content, history content, and also skills like how to essay writing skills mostly. And so you'll just go watch that live session and then complete whatever homework was assigned. So just let your teacher know. We're super flexible. Sela, I'm sorry, I haven't taught you before if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but you asked how will we prepare for IB exams if we have breaks due to scheduling? That's a really good question. That's something that stresses me out a lot. So like if you are in year 2 in quarter 1 and you have your second semester of year 2 in quarter 3, you know that the IB test isn't until May. And so there's a little gap between when you took the course and when you took the IB exam. I think it's just as hard if you're in quarter 2 and quarter 4 because in quarter 4 we start in April and the exams in May, and so there's like a lot to do in a really short time to get you ready for the exam. So I don't know what the answer is besides neither of those is perfect. Like there are problems with being in quarter 3 and quarter 4 if you're in year 2 and you're stressed about the exam, but we're going to do our best to teach most content as much as we can in the first semester so that we can spend a lot of time in that second semester, which will be either quarter 3 or quarter 4, reviewing and just getting you guys ready. We'll do as best we can. Will we learn enough material? Yeah, I guess just know that most kids in IB in the US are in the same boat as us. IB changed what's on the exams a little bit. I guess quickly, if you're a senior, there used to be 3 papers. Paper 1 is that little DBQ where you have documents and write an essay. Paper 2, there are 2 essays, and paper 3, there used to be 3 essays. They dropped one of the essays on paper 3, and that means Mr. Alper and I get to get rid of some content. And so juniors, kids who took our class last year as juniors, we already learned about 2 authoritarian leaders, Mao and Stalin. So we're not going to teach you any more senior year. Like there's just not time. So we're thinking really hard about ways to fit content in and get you guys as prepared as possible. Chris, are we doing the same curriculum as US history, but just going deeper into the material? Sometimes yes, there's a lot of overlap. Sometimes no. They do cover the African American civil rights movement and indigenous peoples movements, but I don't think they do the feminist movement or youth protest movements. They do the Cold War, but I don't think they study authoritarian leaders. Like we do these case studies of what does it mean to be an authoritarian leader and in what ways was Stalin authoritarian and how did he control his opponents. So some overlap, but there are differences too. Yeah, Emma, IB exams are only for seniors in year 2 and only if they want to take them, right? If you want college credit for this class, you can take the exam senior year and you need to score, Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, a 4 or higher. And if you score a 4 or higher, most Oregon and Washington colleges will accept that. And that's a really awesome way to get college credit for a cheap price.
That is correct. You got it.
But we don't make you take the exam. And if you like history and you just want to take it because it's a fun class, that's totally fine too. Yeah, Shaylin, is there another source we can check out on our own that would help us for the test? Yeah, I think that's something Mr. Alper and I can definitely look at, like what books or articles or like review systems can we recommend for kids to start going through on their own? And I'm gonna make a note for seniors who are maybe stressed about the test, like what can they do on their own time to get ready?
I think you have got all of the questions so far. Love the questions, you guys. Really, really thoughtful questions and thoughts around this course, and appreciate the time you're taking to ask those and think about those. There's one more that's trickling in, but after that, we'll probably wrap things up. So kind of final call for any questions. And then just know that, you all are going to be connected to either Ms. Mullins or Mr. Alper starting Monday or Tuesday very regularly. So you'll get more opportunities to connect and ask questions. Connor asked about any timed essays in year 2.
My initial reaction would be yes, because that's the best way to get ready for IB. So Connor, I know that one of the first piece of content we're starting with is apartheid South Africa. And we just like we did a practice paper 1 about the African American civil rights movement in junior year, you guys will do a practice paper 1 about apartheid South Africa, and I don't know why we wouldn't time that, because it's the best way for you guys to practice. So I have a big meeting with Mr. Alper tomorrow, so I'll like confirm with him, but I think practicing essays and then practicing timed essays is the best way to get you guys ready. Timed essays in year 2. Aiden, will dates be important? Not really. One thing that I really love about IB is it's not memorizing people's names and dates. It's more themes. And so knowing general chronology is important. Like Brown v. Board happened around the same time as the Montgomery bus boycott, right? And like, I know those events happened in the same time period. That's important, but the tests don't generally ask, I mean, they don't ask what date did something happen. Are we going to address the current people of color movements in the rights unit? There are like obvious connections to today, Walter. And so when we talk about the civil rights movement, we definitely talk about legacies of practices that were in place a while ago. So like redlining and segregated neighborhoods and segregated schools, and how those are still a thing today that people address. There's a ton of connection. Mr. Alper and I, like, both want to do more and more current stuff, and then we just don't have time. And so we will do as much as we can, because it's like the relevancy is insane, but we don't have much time. So yeah. Will cameras be necessary? No. It's really nice to see you. If you have your camera on, hi, I miss you. It's so good to see students. Hi, Danny. Yeah, yes, Tavion. Yeah, like I miss you guys. And so teachers want to see you. Like, it would be weird if I had my camera off. You probably feel the same way. Like, it's nice to connect with people. So if you have it on and you're comfortable with that, amazing. That makes me really happy. If you don't have a camera or you don't want to have it on, we aren't going to make you. You should just have sound and be able to hear me. Since we aren't having the same class every quarter, I don't know. Mr. Richardson, can you see the last question?
Yeah, I can field that one. So
okay.
Avery, we're taking a semester-long course and squeezing it. The question is around grades and when will grades show up on our transcripts. And so this year, a 0.5 credit is going to take only 9 weeks instead of a typical 18-week. So this year, a 0.5 credit is 1 quarter. And so you will see four marks on your transcript. Instead of just 2 sets of grades, you'll see 4 sets of grades this year for each quarter. And it weighs the same amount as a half of a year course. It's a 0.5 credit. So as you are moving into your junior and senior year, every class, it might feel like it's twice as important, which makes sense because you're attending it twice as much. So you can give it twice as much attention. You have 4 classes to focus on instead of 8. So keep that in mind as you're moving through, and want to keep those GPAs as high as possible and keep lots of options for after school, whatever you may choose to do.
Cool. Final call for questions, you guys. While you maybe are thinking of questions, you should have seen somewhere that this Friday morning at 9:45, you're having your first community and connections meeting, which is like a homeroom class. And I would put in a plug that strongly encourages you attending this Friday, because you'll get a ton of information about like, hey, what do I do with my mic and camera? And what do I need to know about Google Classroom and Google Chrome? So if there are lingering questions that aren't content specific, your like homeroom teacher might be able to answer those on Friday. Danny, the most important expectations for juniors: come to the live sessions and do your homework before we meet the next time.
Awesome. I think on that note, it's short and sweet, short and simple. come to class, do your work. That's a short and sweet message towards the end. It's so good to see actual faces. For those of you that are ready, you can go ahead and trickle away. A couple more just snuck in, so we'll address those. But if people start trickling away, that is perfectly fine. And it makes me happy to see so many faces too. Real quick, as people trickle away, Chris asked, do we have those community connection classes every Wednesday? And we do. So our first session will be Friday, and you'll get messages from teachers. And then on Wednesday, every Wednesday is a nice touch point for those. So absolutely. And then it's just a lot.
Sorry, we're just saying hi. I love you. I miss you.
I miss you guys.
I miss you guys.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, everybody. I'm gonna ask people to log off at this point. I can't wait to connect in classrooms where we can keep it real and get together again. All right. Good to see you all.
Good to see you guys. Bye.
Yeah.
We're waiting for you guys to leave. Bye. We miss you.
I'll start bumping in a minute, but they're doing good. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Hey, Ryan, this other person here, Samantha Klimek, is my student teacher. I was going to tell you to take her
Hi,
off.
Samantha.
Hi, nice to meet you. Yeah, thank you.
It's a good group of kids, so you're in for a lot of fun this year.
They asked the best questions. That was really, they asked really thoughtful, good questions.
Yeah, no surprise.
It was awesome.
No surprise. Great kids.
Okay.
And obviously they love Miss Mullins, so
yes,
you're in good hands in terms of those how-tos of how to build relationships and connect with kids. You'll be in good hands this year, so that's exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm glad I could sit in on this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
And